So then he mentions that the mutakallimun, meaning the people of rhetoric, and falasifa, the people who fell into philosophy, and what he means here by the people of philosophy and the mutakallimin are those individuals. Ahlul Kalam they are referred to as, and obviously if you translate Ahlul Kalam then it means the people of speech. But here actually it has a more specific meaning. All right, and you have, these are words that are used amongst the people of knowledge, and not the people of just who are trying to use literal translations, because sometimes when you literally translate it, it just means people of speech. But we don't intend here people of speech, because everyone speaks. But what the mutakallimun here refers to, the people who apply their logic and they give it precedence over revelation. This is what is intended by mutakallimun. The people who use their own logic and their own reasoning over the text of the Quran and the Sunnah. And they are referred to as people of Kalam because they are people of rhetoric, meaning that they look at the text of the Kitab and the Sunnah and they philosophize over them and they reason from themselves regarding them, and then they enter into discussions and debates and disputation over it, and then they conclude how much of the Quran and the Sunnah they will accept and how much they will reject. So they will never allow, for example, if anything in the Quran, the Sunnah does not make intellectual sense to them, they will never accept it up until it makes intellectual sense to them. So everything therefore is based upon their ability, their intellect, their reasoning. That's why they are referred to as mutakallimun. And these philosophers, same thing, that the philosophers, the Quran and the Sunnah is somewhere in the background. But because they are born into Muslim communities and Muslim societies, that they nominally refer to themselves as Muslims. Okay, we're Muslim in the sense that, we were born into Islamic culture. But in reality, their true God is philosophy, and the gods of philosophy and the heads of philosophy. These are their true gods, like Plato and Aristotle and so on, and the Hindu philosophers and the people of mythology. So the philosophers, that really Allah and the deen of Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mean nothing to them. And this is why you find some of them demeaning the prophets, lowering the status of the prophets. That some of them even would refer to, for example, they would refer to the prophets as liars. That they were good people, but in reality they were liars. And in reality they were philosophers, and they wanted the communities and the societies to become good and righteous and pious. So these people, they call themselves prophets, and they taught the people laws and rules and regulations because they wanted the people to be good. So they were good people, Jesus and Moses and Muhammad and so on. They were good people, but they just used the dimensions and the reasoning of Islam to convince the people to become a more cohesive society. So they told them, if you're not good, then you'll be punished. And if you're good, then you'll be rewarded. So they invented these laws and so on. And this is what the philosophers they do. And this is why you find that many of those who ascribe themselves to Islam and then they call themselves philosophers, in reality, that when you dig beneath the surface and you look at the reality of their speech, in fact, they're deniers of Allah. They don't believe in Allah. They believe that Allah is created, or there is a God who is creating the minds of the people. So they say, yes, there is Allah, but Allah is whoever you have made to be Allah in your minds. All right, so Allah is something which is really a figment of one's imagination. This is the way of the extremists from the mutakallimun and the people of philosophy.